Happy Thursday, team. You'd have to go back pretty far, I imagine, on the timeline to find a week where it took me all the way to Thursday to get a video put together. But um, there's just a lot going on. I've been extremely busy. Obviously, we have the Afghanistan situation. We need to talk about that. Today, I'm going to share with you more data than I typically do. I'm not typically like a big graph guy or, hey, I'm going to show you a bunch of a bunch of data points, for you to analyze. Typically not what I do, but right now, I think it's important to focus on what's going to happen the rest of the year. And so I want to make some predictions here. Derrick Evans, Home Loan Specialist, NMLS 155010. Call, text, email me if you want to buy or refi. That's what I do. That's why there's no commercials on these. There's no sponsors, just me. All right, so we're going to look at a ton of stuff. So we're going to talk about rates. We're going to talk about home values. We're going to look at the things that are happening that, okay, hey, what's a danger? Like, what's a danger to this real estate market? What could be a potential issue? And none other than, I'm going to start on the wrong screen, my bad. Right now, this situation, what's going on. So the Taliban, so if you don't know, like, who is the Taliban? Are they terrorists? Or the Taliban is sort of like, they are basically like, the Confederates of our Civil War. There are people who want the old way to stay. They don't like the new way. They don't want women to be able to vote and to not have to be completely covered and all the things that are happening in progressive society. They want the old way. And violence is something that they use to enforce that. And so, I mean, there's pretty much no doubt about the fact that we'll be headed to a war here at some point with what's going on there. So should we be worried about that from, an economic standpoint? So we're going to take a look at some of the trends. We're going to look at some of the historical graphs, the timelines, because this is like the big thing that, we haven't had a world event. We haven't had anything to really be, hey, is this going to cause a problem? So is this something that could cause a problem? We're going to take a close look at that. The other thing, we're just going to take these things that might be bad news to just face them head on. Let's be honest with each other. Is there a real problem here or not? The Fed is closing in on the taper. We're calling the taper. But there's a lot the market economy still can't know for sure. Of course, we don't know what the Fed is going to do, but my sources, who are pretty good, they're very connected, are saying that the taper is going to come this year. So that's a big, big change, right? Because they were saying 2022, and then Jerome Powell came out and said, we're not going to do it for as far as the eye can see. And now all of a sudden in the same year, we're talking about it happening this year. What's the taper? This is the Fed basically saying we're going to stop artificially propping up the market. Okay, that's what's going on. We're going to stop, but they're not going to stop all at once. They're going to taper it down. So we're going to just start slowly taking money away. This would be like if you had like a spoiled kid that you were giving a $10,000 a month allowance to, or something like that, and you said, okay, we're gonna taper it down. It's gonna be $9,000 next month, $8,000 the month after that, till we get you down to zero. That's basically what the Fed is doing. And by the way, the spoiled kid is Wall Street, but that's for another video. So the taper is something we have to pay attention to. But I want to show you, and we're going to jump right now to the mortgage bond chart. Remember when this big sell-off was happening and I was telling you, hey, the big boys know something that we don't? So they sold the rumor and they're buying the news. And that's a very common practice. Usually happens the other way around. You buy the rumor, sell the news. But in this case, because it's a negative item, it's opposite, which means that this may be all the damage that we're going to see from this taper. That may be priced in already. However, right now for mortgage bonds, remember, we want mortgage bonds to go higher. Oops, get off screen there. We want mortgage bonds to go up in price. That helps rates stay lower. When mortgage bonds go down in price, like they did right here, that makes rates go higher. That's bad. So right now we're recovering from that and we're moving higher a little bit, but we've got a very big resistance level here. We've knocked on the door now 3 times, been denied pretty convincingly each time. To break through this Fibonacci here, this 50% retracement from the high to low, the ultimate high to low. So it's a very macro Fibonacci that we're looking at here. And so it's going to be harder to bust through that. And we lost the 200-day moving average many days ago. We're a long ways from that. But we are kind of hanging above this 50-day moving average, and that's a good sign. So we're staying above that, so that's good. However, this is going to be tough to break through. This really looks like the continuation is going to be lower, especially with the taper on the table. But that could be a head fake. So right now, I would say it's a lock situation. If you're conservative at all, if you feel like really rolling the dice, then you should wait. But it's always possible that bonds could go higher because what are we seeing? Let's go back over here. Is that really how the market finished up today? Amazing. I thought we were down a lot. So you're seeing the stock market sell off a little bit, but still almost 35,000 in the Dow, 4,400 in the S&P. NASDAQ still at 14.5. If we do see a shakeout, it'll probably happen in stocks first, and that actually could be good for bonds. That could send a lot of money into the bond market. If stocks are no longer the only game in town, if the Fed taper and the war that's impending, if those things can kind of shake the stock market loose a little bit, the valuations in the stock market are really high right now. The S&P is at like a 45 PE. That's too high. I've shown you that on this channel before. It shouldn't be that high. When it gets that high, it tends to sell off from there. There's better times to get in. This is why we like to dollar cost average when we invest in stocks, crypto, etc. Oil. This website. Oil. Dude. Getting thrashed. We're now $64. Oil, to me, look at that. Oil falls for 6th straight day. Lowest level since May. Fears of slowing growth. The people who are trading oil, who are causing this price to be what it is, they are smarter than you and me. They know more about what's going on. If you're an airline, if you're a dry shipper or whatever, and you need massive amounts of oils to the extent that you have to actually buy futures contracts so that you can hedge your costs, you know more about what's going on than I do. Plain and simple. Oil getting hit, that's concern. That's concern for global economy. What does that mean, though? We'll just take a quick look at gold here. Pretty flat in crypto. Bitcoin still in that middle 40,000 range. Ethereum above $3,000. XRP still $1.20. I don't know why it's going higher, but it just keeps going higher. I think we're going to get news about XRP at some point. It feels to me like there's major whale purchases going on right now at this level. We're going to hear something about XRP Ripple in the near future. Mark my words. Like, screenshot that. You're going to see it. So we have these things taking place. So what would happen, if there was a slowdown? Well, this is where we need to go to some of the historical charts. But before we go to the historical charts, I do want to show you one thing. Right now, a lot of buyers in the real estate market have been fatigued. They've been beat up by this market. The rental market, however, is just as hot. So it's really just pick your poison. Do you want to buy a home in a fight for it, or do you want to rent a home in a fight for it? And by the way, that rent's going to go up. And I have an article here I want you to see. I want you to read this. There's some justifications in here. There's some interviews from some top CEOs in here. I'm not going to go through it today, but I just wanted you to know when you're making that decision, should we go this way? Should we go that way? Rents are going to get worse. Even more guaranteed that rents are going to go up than even home values. Okay, because the rental market, believe it or not, is actually extremely stable. There are so many people trying to rent, so many more people trying to rent than even buy. And we've got qualified buyers lined up around the door around the corner for days and days, who are exiting the market. So if we do see like a global economic slowdown as a result of, let's say, war, tapering, let's say there's another piece of bad news, COVID, lockdowns, let's say that all happens again. Okay, would this be our worst case scenario? Probably. What happens in that case? We're just talking to the end of the year. Rates for sure go down if that happens, right? For sure, bonds become a place where not just money here in our country goes, but money from other countries will go. In fact, I don't know why anyone would buy one of these, German bonds or Japanese bonds or these negative interest bonds. Why would you even buy those bonds when you can buy a mortgage bond for, make 2%, or let's say 1.75 or whatever, or even the 10-year, which is like 1.25? Why would you buy those other bonds? I don't know. It makes no sense. So I think you will see a lot of money flow into these bonds, which would could potentially catapult this higher, send us to all-time lows for mortgage rates. So remember, we're talking worst case scenario right now. We're talking about the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, very good for mortgage rates. Okay. The best case scenario for the economy is actually bad for mortgage rates. So if you're bearish about what's happening in the world, just remember, that's actually going to be good for mortgage rates. If the economy chugs along, if we stay reopened, if COVID cases decrease, if they don't do the lockdowns like I told you is going to happen, it looks like we're heading and trending that way. But if I'm wrong and that doesn't happen, we stay open, then the economy gets better and the taper comes in and maybe rates go up a bunch. It's a weird conundrum, I know. That's why I want to talk about it. So if bad things happen, it's being good for real estate. Why is that? Let's take a look. I just want to show you some of these charts. So this is from the Federal Reserve economic data. Okay. So this is compiled, the St. Louis Fed, I believe. stlouisfed.org puts this together. The source of the information is Freddie Mac. This is 30-year fixed rate mortgages going back to 1970. And what you'll see here is that we've got just from, you could call it the savings and loan crisis in the early 90s right here. This trend line is just lower and lower and lower. And we barely peaked above it here in 2018. And it's just been lower and lower and lower. It's been following that trend. So to the point now where, look, we're almost off the chart low, right? So rates are already very, very low, historically speaking. That's why I always say, hey, these are historically low rates. Yeah, because they really are. And this is the average rate that someone is getting in the United States for that given week. And they publish this every week. So, if you look back here, okay, well, the first conflict in Iraq was, September 11th is in here somewhere. And, we really didn't get there until like 2003, I think, when we really actually invaded and landed there, right in this range. Rates stay pretty steady through that whole process. So you can see that there. So rates stay pretty steady right there. Obviously, long term, they went lower. Even through the Great Recession right here, they went lower. So those sort of bad things, bad news, bad economic news, bad personal news, if you have a bunch of friends in the military like I do, you don't want to see them going to Afghanistan. We want them to come home from Afghanistan. Some of them may be going back. Let's look at real estate values then. Okay. Don't pay attention to this orange line. That's inflation adjusted, which is a moot point. Look, here's 2000, about right here. So aside from this glitch right here, which was the Great Recession caused by Wall Street ruined real estate on purpose, got themselves extremely rich. If you take that out of the equation, what you really have here is just a nice smooth move higher, right? It's very nice and smooth. The run up here was caused by Wall Street, crash also caused by Wall Street. Look at how smooth that actually is. It's a very smooth and consistent parabolic move. It's a parabolic move. But, it's that's going to happen when you have a parabolic circumstance, a lack of supply for real estate and an ever-growing population means you should have a parabolic move higher. That's what we're seeing. So my prediction for the rest of this year, assuming that things are neutral versus like best case scenario, worst case scenario, you're going to see real estate values go higher. You're going to see rents go higher. We're probably going to see mortgage rates stay about the same where they are right now. But you're going to see rents go up. You're going to see home values go up, even though right now, if we look at the market right now, we're not seeing the same frenzy that we saw. Thank you, Sam. Thank you very much. You're a funny guy. You're funny. You are a funny guy. I love it. Sam is the broker at Big Block Realty, huge real estate firm here in San Diego and all over, really. They've got offices everywhere now. So I appreciate that. It's fun. So what we have is we have a situation where the real issue is an actual crisis. We have an actual housing crisis on our hands that can't really be fixed with anything. And there's not much that can slow it down either. If you've noticed, like for me, I work mostly with VA buyers. So a lot of VA buyers having trouble buying in this market. They have to really stay after it. We got one through the wickets today. We get them through all the time, but it's not easy. We have to work very hard at it. We have to work hard with the agents at it. to make it work. Or we have to have an off-market deal or be buying from the landlord or something like that. I have 2 of those right now. So it can be done, but it's increasingly difficult because of the crisis, because we just simply don't have enough homes. And if we don't have enough homes to buy, remember, renting is a tertiary thing. It's a secondary deal. Renting is a secondary thing. If we don't have enough homes to buy, then we damn sure don't have enough homes to rent. And that is exactly what you're seeing. So a lot of smart people are buying rental properties. A lot of people who bought a home as their primary are renting that out, buying a different primary, or even selling that home and taking some of those gains and moving into a separate property. And that all makes total sense. But the main thing I don't want you to do is get caught up in this idea that, because prices have gone up so much, they must come down. A lot of people thought that in San Francisco 10, 20 years ago. A lot of people were very, very wrong. Some people are getting priced completely out of the market. This is happening a lot. A lot of people are just getting completely priced out of the market. I know people who, 2 years ago were pre-approved for $550,000. And at that time, we were telling them, hey, you get a detached home. You're going to get a house. Not anymore. Not anymore. I don't even think you can get a detached house in Temecula for $550,000. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But the prices have just gone up so much. What's going to stop that? What could stop this? What is the thing or two that could make this turn sour? That could make this party get pooped? What is the thing? Well, the number one thing we would need is inventory. We would need more homes from somewhere. We would need the government to come in and say, hey, we've hired this home builder to build 10 million homes. We don't care where they build them. It's not going to happen. We would need people to sell their homes in mass quantity. We would need to have lots and lots of people decide to sell their homes. But where are they going to go? If those home sellers are also buying a house somewhere here in the States, then unless they're leaving the country, also unlikely, right? It's not likely that they're leaving the country. Everyone's trying to get here, not leave here. So they may be leaving this state for that state, but that's not going to change the national numbers if you're selling a house here and buying a house there. So you would need a bunch of sellers who are not going to buy. Okay, that's what you need. Tons of sellers who aren't buying. They're just selling. So what are they going to do? Go rent? Rent what? There's not enough rentals for those sellers. So you see, the housing crisis, the inventory situation is very, very real. And it causes a domino effect of problems. And one of those problems is that there are actually a lot of people who would sell their home right now, but they can't figure out where they're going to land. So, and that inventory, I'm telling you, would get gobbled up so fast. A buddy of mine recently called me and said, hey, so when do you think the next round of foreclosures is going to come through? The next round of foreclosures. I said, foreclosures? Who's stupid enough to get foreclosed on? How could you get foreclosed on in this market? That makes no sense. If you can't make the payment, just put it on the market. You'll get tons of offers. It doesn't really matter what condition it's in. You're going to get a great deal if you have a good agent, obviously. I hope I don't have to say that anymore. You need to have the right agent. If you need an agent, please let me know. Okay, there are a lot of agents out there. Obviously, there's some really, really good ones. Okay, just referred my buddy to someone. He had a house in a very specific area of San Diego that requires a loving touch, and he only got one offer, but he got one offer above asking. Pretty cool. So if you know the right people, you can hook people up. I know the right people. I can hook you up if you need it. So if there was someone who, someone was telling this guy, he was telling me, hey, there's all these notice of defaults that have been filed. There's all these people who, they're going to default on their mortgages and they're going to get foreclosed on, and that's going to cause a domino effect. And that's a lot of ifs, right? That's a lot of ifs that all need to work out. Problem is, if someone is defaulted on their mortgage right now, if someone is in a bad situation, all they have to do is put their home on the market and they're going to make money. It pretty much doesn't matter when they bought it. Even if they bought it only a year ago, we're up 20% year over year. And most likely, unless they're a VA buyer who bought with no money down and paid a funding fee and they owe more than what they purchased it for, unless it's that specific situation, which would be rare that they would have such a dire need, right? Because, if they're active duty, they would have a dire need. But unless it's that specific situation, you're going to have equity. you're going to just be able to do a regular sale and walk away with money. So the reason why foreclosures snowballed in the Great Recession is because people were so unqualified. They couldn't make their payments. And once they realized that their home was actually worth less than what they owed on it, it made it very easy to say, hey, it's a bad investment. Toss it out. It's a bad deal. Look, we bought it for $600. It's worth $550 now. We can't make the payment. What are we doing? Let's get rid of it. We'll short sale. We'll let it go. Cash for keys. Walk away. That's what was happening. So it snowballed. So now you have a whole bunch of bank-owned homes coming on the market, and they're obviously being sold at a discount. We don't have that now. If somebody did that today, they would be leaving money on the table. I don't think anyone's that dumb. If someone were in that situation today and they were saying, you know what, I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to squat here. I'm going to let the house turn to a piece of crap. They would be leaving money on the table. And there might be one or two idiots like that out there, but most people who have bought a home, especially in this market, they've got skin in the game. They've got a down payment. They've got, they've probably made repairs or made upgrades to the home. A lot of people have been doing a lot of things to their homes to improve them because money's everywhere. So it's unlikely these people would just let the home go to shit or throw it away like, bathwater. They will most likely look at it and they know what it's worth. Remember back then too, during the crash, we didn't have the Zestimate didn't exist. Redfin wasn't even a company. People, the only way they knew what their home was worth is if they called a realtor pretty much. So now homeowners are much more savvy. They know. Some people check it every day. It's like a problem. They check the Zestimate every day because they're looking at it like it's a stock, like it's, this investment. They need to know exactly what it's worth today. People are way more savvy about what their homes are worth today. People call me and they say, yeah, well, Zillow said this, Redfin says that. They already know. So people aren't going to just throw that money away. There's no way. And so this idea that there's some wave of foreclosures that are going to come and create lower price points is just far-fetched. Anything's possible, I guess. But man, I would put my money on the lotto over that taking place. So if that's not it, then what is it? Someone tell me. I'm really interested. Does anyone have a good idea or thought on what might actually legitimately cause real estate prices to go down? A lack of demand? Would there be a lack of demand? Okay. Lack of demand. Let's talk about that. I probably have 100 people pre-approved to buy a home right now. And I would say probably 25 of them are really actively looking. What about the other 75%? What are they doing? They've got fatigue. They've exited stage left. They signed a rental. They went to base housing. Why? Well, because they couldn't get into a home, but they're still qualified buyers. If the market were to come in, a lot of these people would come out of the woodworks. There is a huge layer of qualified people that are there who can buy and would buy if the market were to come in a little bit. A huge protective layer of support in there. Interest rates. Thank you, Brandon. So interest rates. Let's say interest rates go up. Well, let's go take a look. Here's a fun one. I haven't shown this one yet. Like I said, I don't normally do all this data, but I got to show you this stuff. It's so interesting. So the market action index here on Altos Research, strong sellers market is at 88. Okay. That's pretty strong. Hundreds maximum. Just a month ago or so, this was at 97, which was the highest I've ever seen it. And I sent that to my realtor friends that I stay in touch with on a regular basis because I wanted them to know, hey, listen, if you have a seller who's on the fence, I've never seen this that high before. And it turns out that was probably the absolute best time to sell. Right now, it's easing a little bit. We really need it to ease. Remember, this is not a buyer's market until we're in the 20s. It's at 88. Yowza. Okay. So last month's was at 91. They give you that here. So you can see it's easing a little bit. Thank God. Okay. That does not mean a crash is coming. We're still getting multiple offers on almost every home. But here's the data I like to look at. Price per square foot. Because we can look at median list price. We can look at sold price. That stuff can get skewed by a big sale or whatever. I'm not interested in that. I want to know price per square foot. This is the real telltale, and you can see what that's doing. Very steady climb. This goes back to August 2018, where we're at $450 to today we're at $589. So we've had a very big increase there. It's 30% increase. So that's, in 3 years, and it's been very nice and steady and smooth. Okay, now it has been a little more aggressive since COVID, and that's to be understandable for lots of reasons we've discussed many times on this channel. But this is what I like to look at. That is a very smooth looking graph. Higher trending based on the fundamentals of real estate supply and demand. Okay, so if interest rates were to go up, well, what happens? Well, let's go take a look, because this is a good question Brandon posed here. We're going to zoom out. This is our interest rate chart. Let's go back all the way to January, and let's look at a few of the times where we've seen that happen. Rates really, really went up a lot between the end of January and the end of February. You see this huge fall from grace here, from near the all-time lows, or all-time highs, to a new all-time low for this market cycle. We've since broken that a couple times, and that ended up being support for reverse head and shoulders, which is nice. So what was happening there? Did the market, was there an outflux of buyers? Did prices go down after this significant increase in interest rates? That was, let's just talk February. So where's February? And this goes by week, so you can really see. February, right here. Was there much of a jump? No. I mean, the whole month of February was pretty steady. So things sort of leveled out a little bit through there. So this 7-day average gives you a more zoomed in, and then the dark line here is the 90-day average. So this line here is the 90-day, and then this sort of dotted line here is the 7-day. So it gives you a little bit more zoomed in. But you can see it was just, even on the zoomed in version, is still very much the same. Price per square foot, not a lot of fluctuation there. Sort of normal ups and downs. And we also saw that prior to that, if you go actually back when COVID began, when the first lockdown started happening, we had a big sell-off in bonds. And it was kind of the same thing. It was like we were all just kind of going, oh, what's going to happen? We didn't really know. And demand just shot through the roof. We're seeing tons of transactions in cash. We're seeing lots of people putting down big down payments. And by the way, even though rates have gone up, how high would they have to go up to actually cause a problem? And that's the real question. If rates went up a ton, meaning they went up, from 3% to 5%, that could have an effect on the market. That would be a catastrophic failure by the Fed. I think they would jump back in if they had to keep that from happening. But here's the good point. Thank you, Brandon, for that. Here's the question of the day. Surge in inventory coupled with higher interest rates. So what if we see two of these things happen at the same time? What if we see interest rates jump up a little bit? We see a little more inventory come on the market. Well, the first question is, what is it going to take to get this balanced? Frankly, I think we've got so much cushion there that we could absorb an increase in interest rates and an increase in inventory. Because the increase in inventory would wake up a lot of these buyers I'm talking about who are qualified that are on the sidelines. They would wake up if they started seeing homes, because they're still looking at homes. They are. If they started seeing more homes on the market, they would go, babe, I think we need to look at this again. Look at this one. Ooh, look at this. Look at that one. So the inventory thing would help. Now, when they call me and they go, hey, we found one we like, we called back out to the realtor. We're going to go see it. Can you run a payment for us? Which I always recommend people do that. When I get that call and then I go, okay, hey, rates have gone up since then. Here's your new payment. How much is your payment affected, by an increase of, let's say, 1% in interest rate? And this is a good question. And I don't have the specific answer here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to calculate it because we got calculators and stuff. Let's see here. So let's say you have a $600,000 loan, 30 years. We're going to say 3%, 30 years. And let's just get rid of this right here. Okay. Oh, it's going to crap on me at the wrong time. Dang it. All right. So my calculator is not working. Perfect timing. Thank you so much, Mr. Calculator. So anyway, the point I was going to make, which because I've done this before many times, is it doesn't change the payment as much as you think. A lot of times people will be like, okay, well, how, what if I drop 0.25% in interest rate? How much that can help? And we usually look at this when we look at locks, and we're looking at, should we buy down? Should we not? A lot of times, even a 0.5% interest rate will only change the payment $100 or $150 a month. And so it's not that much. So if you lost a couple percent, yeah, your payment might go up to $200 or $300 or maybe even $400 a month if we went from 3% to 5%, which is a lot. It's a lot, but it's not some massive amount. It's not some crazy number that totally throws people out. People who are on a very fixed budget are saying, hey, I want to buy a house, but I want my payment to be no more than $3,200. Those people are going to be hurt the most. People who are like, we'd really like our payment to be $3,200, but we know we can afford like $45. We're just trying to, save for other things. Those people will still buy. So again, this is part of the reason why I'm on a crusade to get people into the market, because I don't think we're going to look back in, 5 years from now and go, oh, well, there was a better time to get in than the pandemic. If people would have just waited a year or two, there was going to be such a great opportunity to get into the market. I don't think we're going to be having that conversation. I think we're going to be having a conversation of, man, we thought things were crazy during the pandemic. Look at them now. That's the conversation I think we're going to be having. So that's the reason for my evangelism here. And I hope that makes sense. Okay. I got some work to do, team. I'm going to go get it done. Hopefully this is helpful for you. Listen, if you have questions about home loans, give me a shout. Call, text, email if you want to buy a refi. I appreciate your time. Everyone have an amazing day.